LLC owners are going to pay thousands, if not millions in penalties because of this new law released on January 1st, 2024. Sadly, this is going to catch so many people by surprise. And this is what's going to happen if you do not comply with this new rule. First, you can be charged penalties up to $500 per day. Then you can face up to 2 years in jail time. And you can be charged up to $10,000 in fines. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to BOI reporting requirements, which stands for Beneficial Ownership Information. So, if you own an LLC or corporation, you're now required by law to file an annual report that discloses information about your company and its owners to the government. If you do not, the government is going to penalize you, but don't be panicked. In this video, I'm going to break everything down for you. My name is Noah Waziri. I work with EasySol as a general manager. So it seems really problematic for the people who own LLCs or corporations. But if you watch this video until the end, I will tell you everything you need to know. In today's video, we're going to talk about who is required to file versus who is exempt, which honors must be reported, what information must be reported, the deadline which you don't want to miss for this form to be filed, where to file this form, what to do if the filed information changes in the future. So let's not waste any time and jump right into it. The question is now, who is required to file this form and who is not? Like I said earlier, every LLC and corporation must file an annual BOI report. Basically, if you are registered with your state to form your business, you're likely required to file this form. Now, if you operate as an incorporated business, such as a sole proprietorship or general partnership, you do not need to file this form. In addition to that, you're also not required to file this form if you're considered exempt. Now, typically when we hear exempt, we think tax-exempt entities, like nonprofits, for example. Nonprofit organizations are exempt from this requirement, but there are 23 other types of exemptions from this report, which range from banks, public accounting firms, to inactive entities. Now, let's talk about inactive entities for a second, because there are a lot of people walking around with LLCs that they're not engaged in. So look, in order for your entity to be considered inactive, you must meet all the 6 following criteria. Number 1, the entity must not have been in existence before January 1st, 2020. Number 2, the entity is not engaged in active business. Number 3, the entity is not owned by a foreign person. Number 4, the entity has not experienced change in ownership in the last 12 months. Number 5, the entity has not sent or received funds greater than $1,000, and that is going to catch a bunch of people. Number 6, the entity does not hold any assets like vehicles or equipment. So, if you do not meet all these 6 requirements, your entity is not inactive. It is not exempt, and you must file this report. Most businesses will have to file this, and there are 40 million registered entities that must file this report. So let's go ahead and keep moving here. So the second big thing, which honors in the entity must be reported. Basically, anyone who owns at least 25% of the entity must be reported, or any owner that exercises substantial control over the company. So even if you own less than 25% in the entity, if it is deemed that you control it in some way, you're still required to be reported. Now, let's talk about what information must be reported. The required information appears very simple and to the point. For the entity, you just have to report the legal name, address, EIN, which stands for Employer Identification Number, or TIN, which stands for Taxpayer Identification Number. Then, for each beneficial owner, you have to report the full legal name, birth date, current address, and their Employer Identification Number from driver's license, passport, or another government-issued document. And that's it from what I can see. Very basic information. But what is more important is that you file the report by the deadline to avoid penalties. So let's go ahead and talk about the filing deadline of this BOI report. All right, so there is 3 buckets of deadlines here. The first bucket is entities created before January 1st, 2024. If your entity exists before January 1st, 2024, you must file your initial BOI report by January 1st, 2025 to avoid penalties. Now, the second bucket is for entities you create after January 1st, 2024, which will apply to any new entity you create going forward. If your entity was registered after January 1st, 2024, then it must file its initial report within 90 days of receiving notice that their entity's registration is effective. So basically you have 90 days after forming any new LLC or corporation going forward to file your BOI report. And then the final bucket, which is bucket number 3, is for entities registered in 2025 and beyond. Those entities will only have 30 days to file their initial report after receiving the notice. So as you can see here, the government is giving existing entities more time to file their initial report, but they will be shortening the timeline for entities in the future. So the next part of this video starts with a question. That is, where exactly do you go to file this BOI form? Let's talk about it. So to file your BOI report, all you have to do is go to finson.gov/BOI and click File button. Or you can get a professional involved to help you, like EasySell. But wait a minute here, there is still one final caveat that still needs to be addressed. And that involves what to do if your filed BOI information changes in the future. If you don't get it right, the government can charge you penalties and fines. So let's talk about this. So look, if there is any change to the required information you reported in your BOI, you must file an updated BOI report within 30 days after the change occurred. For example, if you create a new DBA or add a new business partner or hire a CEO or do something as simple as just changing your address, that information must be updated. The same thing goes for beneficial owners. If the beneficial owners change their addresses, those information also must be updated. So why not drop a comment below if you have any questions, and be sure to subscribe for more guidance.